of Fate podcast fans. Welcome to this week's episode with yours truly, Randy Silver. As y'all can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm with my friend Bryce. We're doing it live. We're in my apartment. We got camera 1, we got camera 2, and we got camera 3. Why is Bryce on today? What's the value he's going to bring to Leap of Fate? Bryce epitomizes Leap of Fate, as most of our guests do, in overcoming adversity, helping you learn life's lessons, and help you understand how you can achieve your goals. Bryce achieved his goals doing it like this. Bryce did the Texas Ironman. What is an Ironman? An Ironman is swimming, biking, and running. The swimming was 2.4 mile swim to start. Then it's the bike of 112 miles. And then it's a run, which is a marathon, which is 26.2 miles. Bryce had to not train once, not had to train twice, 3 times because of COVID. He had to keep training. You know, what's the willpower to go over it again and again? What does it take to do an Ironman, compete, all the training? Very similar episode to what we spoke about a couple weeks with my friend Nate, who climbed the tallest mountain inside the Western and Southern Hemisphere. Same concept here of mind over matter, physical strength, mental fortitude to achieve your dreams. So Bryce is going to talk about Ironman. I've wanted to interview him for a while, so I'm excited to have him in my apartment today. And you guys have seen him on my Instagram before, doing my workouts in the afternoon, right over there to the left. So I'm excited to have Bryce here. So Bryce, to the loyal law fans listening via Spotify, Apple, or watching on YouTube today, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, man. Glad to be here, and no better place to do it than my personal trainer, Randy's gym.
22s, baby.
Adjacent to the gym. Silver's gym. Yes. Way better than Gold's.
And after this, Silver's gym will be in session, so we'll have some fun before we get to the gym session talking about your Ironman. I think I gave a good intro, but overall, can you just tell the audience a quick intro of who you are?
I'm Bryce, like you said. I grew up in Austin, Texas, so close to the Texas Ironman, kind of why I picked that race, so my family could come and see some friends on the way too. So moved out to San Diego a couple years ago, figured the weather was good enough to train for one of these, and kind of just decided to do it. And that's how I don't know. There's not much to why I decided to do it. It kind of came out of nowhere, but yeah, I've been in San Diego like 2 years.
Well, most people just don't out of nowhere decide, hey, I'm going to do an Ironman. Maybe it's like, I'll bike a lot, I'll run, I'll swim. You combine all 3 together. So what was the intrinsic motivation to want to do all 3 together at the same time?
Yeah, I always have enjoyed physical challenges, and
you're a big guy. If you can't see him on YouTube, he's a big guy. He's like 6'3".
Yeah, I like sports. I played a lot of basketball pretty seriously growing up, and I had a friend in college, or a mentor of sorts, who was big into running, and I think he ran 25 marathons by age 25 was his goal. I was never a runner. I guess I swam when I was a kid, so that I wouldn't drown in the pool. My parents put me through it. But hadn't really swam, done some mountain biking. But he had kind of incepted me with the idea when he ran an Ironman he kind of went out of the blue too, no biking or swimming experience. So he had rave reviews about it, loved it. I always thought he was crazy while he was training. I remember him doing bike rides Saturday morning for 4 hours and showing up to hang out with us after. And we're like, dude, you're an idiot.
Wild. This is wild.
And then, I don't know, I guess 2 years passed. I was a ski instructor at Vail. I was leaving Vail, and I had kind of wrapped up a year of fun post-college stuff. And for whatever reason, I remember driving out of Colorado into Utah and being like, I kind of want to run an Ironman next, the next fun thing. And I didn't put too much weight on it. And then when I moved out to San Diego, it was kind of well, I don't know a ton of people here. The weather's great.
When did you move here?
Would have been August of 2019 now. So I guess 2.5 years ago. Moved in with my cousin and bought a bike. Started kind of putzing around and learning things. But as far as the actual decision point, I don't really know. It kind of grew over time, and eventually it just sounded like a fun next challenge to do, I guess. So
cool. So then before we get into signing up and doing it, a lot of people have that mental block, mental fortitude. What was the hardest part for you to deal with to get into okay, where do I start training? How do I create myself a plan to create tangible goals to reach the overall goal of being able to train for a full Ironman?
Yeah, the part I wasn't prepared for with the whole training plan, or I guess pre-plan, I wasn't prepared for how much I had to learn to run an Ironman. I had figured it was practically a physical challenge, and that was it. It's just, hey, do these things, run a bunch, bike a bunch, swim a bunch, you'll be fine. The amount you had to learn, whether it be nutrition, stretching, like injury management, how to ride a bike correctly, the kind of stuff that you need for swim form, all kinds of things, what you even need to do on certain days, that was actually probably the more stressful part of actually doing the entire thing, because once you get a plan, it's sort of like you just do it, but figuring out all that other stuff, you're like managing injuries, that's the hard part. So the easiest way to do it is find a plan online, and I did a bunch of research on Reddit. There's most of the stuff in the triathlete world is through coaching, and coaching was expensive, and I didn't have a job at that point, so I couldn't afford coaching. So I found a plan on Reddit that someone recommended, and it was a condensed plan. So typically, I think for an Ironman, you do about 9 months of training. This one was good. It was about 5.5, 6 months, and it emphasized intensity over volume. So instead of like swimming for an hour and a half on Tuesdays, you'd swim for 45 minutes to start, but you do high intensity intervals. And
you swam in the ocean?
Sometimes it depended, but essentially the easiest way to start was find a plan. And once I found a plan, it's like, all right, I know what I'm doing. This is like, I don't have to worry about what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. Now I just have to worry about the nutrition and everything else that goes into it.
Got it. And the nutrition part, did you eat healthy beforehand? Did you have to cut out a lot of part of your diet? Did you have to like learn how to cook for yourself and things like that?
Yeah, I had, as I mentioned, kind of taken a gap year beforehand, so your boy got thick.
Like you said, he's 6'3". He's a big boy. Like, he's not fat. Like, he's big. I'm 5'8". Like, I'm Skinny Bone Jones. He's like he's a big bone.
Your boy was husky. We'll put it that way. So I was like, this will be a cool way to get in shape too. But I definitely need to start eating more carbs. You think like you want to lose weight, you eat less carbs. I guess that's the paleo routine that's popular now, or intermittent fasting. You kind of have to throw all that out the window and almost like double your calorie consumption because you're burning so much. And especially you're doing more than an hour and a half, it starts to really affect you if your nutrition is imbalanced. So, which is almost every day of the week, you're doing more than an hour and a half. So I actually had to eat more, which was weird.
You're probably doing like 5,000 to 8,000 calories a day.
On weekends, yeah, easily. And then during the weekdays, you're doing more intense intervals. On weekends were sort of the long training runs, rides, swims, those types of things. So those were really important. You really have to fuel up for. But as far as like the preparation beforehand, started eating healthy, tried to lose some weight beforehand, so I'm not like overstressing my tendons and things like that. On the running specifically is where most of the injuries happen. But nutrition beforehand didn't change a bunch. Started stretching, just kind of like getting in overall shape. Loose. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Because I had heard from people like stretching and nutrition were important, but I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, and that goes back to a couple weeks ago. We talked about Corey, where Corey was able to teach people how to stretch and have proper nutrition, which was really cool. And then we talked about with Justin Peters about a month and a half ago. He ran the ultra marathon and how much he was eating because he was just burning so many calories having to run 60 miles, prepare for that, things of that nature, running marathons. So everyone you can see and correlating all the information we heard over different podcasts is correct diet, correct nutrition, correct physical ability. If you're going to be working out that much, you got to make sure your body's in shape, you're stretching, you're refueling appropriately, not putting McDonald's in your body 3 times a day. Things of that nature, not drinking
won't
beer.
Help you.
So we mentioned in the beginning that you had to almost like train for this 3 times. So take us through that. You signed up once. What happened? Second time, what happened? And how do you mentally overcome the blocks? It's like, I have to go through another 12-week, 14-week program and be ready for it.
Yeah, I think the good starting point here is that training sort of ruins your life. It's like, 20 weeks, 24 weeks, depends on how you maneuver it. But the beginning 8 weeks is manageable. Your Monday through Friday isn't bad. Your Saturday, Sunday is doable. You're only, biking 2-3 hours and running, less than 10, 13 miles. So you still have energy
to hang out
do things.
Stuff.
It's not as big of a time suck. But as the training progresses into like the week 9 block, and then past that, it starts to become pretty much like you train like on a typical Monday through Friday. I'd leave work, come home, or go straight to the gym actually, and then bike or swim or do a run and a swim. And then I get home at like 8:30 and be exhausted and in bed by 9:30. And that's like taking care of all the other things.
No social life.
Yeah, you basically can't have a social life. And then weekends I'd be up at like 4:45, 5 on Saturday to bike, which would take me to like noon, 2 o'clock, depending on the length of the ride. And then you just have no energy. So that's the thing to know, is it sort of ruins like your social life and your ability to like do other things. So I was like, I can do this once. This didn't sound that bad. 5 months, 6 months of this, not that big of a deal. So when the first one was rolling up, I think the original date was April 24th. COVID hit mid-March.
So this was 2020?
Yeah, 2020.
Okay.
COVID hit. Kind of figured it was going to get canceled along with everything else. I'd actually signed up for a triathlon on, I think, the 19th, March 19th here to practice, because I hadn't done a tri before, and I wanted to do a short one to kind of figure out.
So for those out there, what's the difference between triathlon and the Ironman?
There's no difference. They're the same thing, but a Ironman is just a designation of a triathlon. It's the highest one. So you go Ironman, half Ironman, Olympic distance. There's a sprint, and there's a couple other in there.
So it's just a shorter distance for each one. So it's the same thing you're doing. It's a shorter distance, tri versus Ironman.
Right.
Cool. Understood.
So I had signed up for that to practice. That got canceled, and I was like, all right, see the writing on the wall. The world's shutting down due to COVID. Triathlon's going to get canceled. Obviously, I'm bummed, but, it is what it is. We're all going through some crap. So that cut off with about 5 weeks of training. So I had gone through some of the tougher stuff, but was like, whatever, I got in shape. We'll figure out when they postpone this too. So they ended up kicking it to the next April 24th, so a year from then.
Okay.
So was kind of bummed because I like skiing. So you have to skip ski season if you're training. You can't be skiing if you're trying to actually follow the training plan. So it got kicked to the next April, and then ramped back up the training in late October, I think, again, of 2020. And then I forget whether it was like the second wave or if it was the Delta variant or something, but it was right at the tail end. It was, again, like April 23rd, 24th. It was right at the tail end of one of those COVID spikes.
It would have been Delta.
Yeah. And this is where it gets kind of frustrating, because I was, freaking out, hitting the COVID numbers every day, trying to be like, is this going to get canceled again? Like, other triathlons were happening, and it's in Texas, so I was hoping, hey, come on. They're a little looser down there.
loosey-goosey.
Yeah. And what ended up happening, and this is what's infuriating, is it got canceled again, obviously, like a month beforehand. The county that it starts in had no COVID restrictions, but a 10-mile section of the bike dips into the Harris County, which is where Houston is, and they still had some level of restriction a month out that prevented gatherings of over 10 people. And the triathlon would have technically been categorized as a gathering, even though on the bike you're spread out hundreds of feet. You're on a bike, and it was only through that county for literally 10 miles.
And there's no way they could detour the bike ride?
That's what I was frustrated. I was like, guys, anybody with a modicum of intelligence could have diverted the route or done something. So I was less angry that I had done the training twice and not been able to do it, and more angry at just the entire situation and how frustrating it was that it couldn't happen. And so then they kicked to October 10th of 2021. So this first one was supposed to be April 24th, 2020. Second one was supposed to be April 23rd, 2021. And then finally it got kicked to October 10th, 2021. So just kind of, I'd never really stopped training after that, because it was like late March when I found out it got canceled. And by then you have to start your 5-month program again for the last one.
So of the biking, running, and swimming, what was the hardest to train for?
Probably swimming. Swimming it takes the most out of you. You have to learn a lot. There's a lot of mechanics and stroke adjustments you have to make. Yep. I got shoulder tendonitis the first time I trained. Just from bad technique, so I'd go home and watch YouTube videos on
how to do it. I'm not a good swimmer. I mean, I can swim, but Not in open water.
Yeah.
Not in open water.
And the open water training is really, it's brutal. So that's probably the toughest. The running is the toughest on your body, though. That's where, like, you leave the run and you're like, I'm feeling it. And there's a lot of injuries that can happen with the run, too.
Yeah. So then you did all the training. You got to the point, October's coming. Hey, it looks good. We're like a month out of the race. What's that feeling of anticipation like when it's not going to cancel, I'm ready to go, in that final month of prep to make sure you're ready to be successul?
It was exciting and like really boring at the same time. Like training, the way the training works with triathlons is you peak. It's sort of like you climb a jagged mountain, and you reach a peak at some point, and then you do what's called a taper the last like 3 weeks to a month. So the taper period is just like you're lowering the distances, you're getting your body freshened up so that on race day you're
good to go,
tip-top shape. Part of the fun of training, and after 3 times I honestly started to kind of enjoy it. But part of the fun is that you're doing more than you've done ever before on a week-to-week basis. So like a good benchmark would always be the bike. I'd get really excited for the bike rides on Saturday because I wake up, the weather's always nice in San Diego. It's like I'm riding up the coast. And last week I did 65 miles. This week so I'm going to do 75. And so it's fun. There's like a new challenge of like I haven't done 75 before. And then you finish the 75 and you feel like psyched up. So I think it goes up to 100. But then once you get that taper, the next week is 70 and then like 50. And then so you don't get that sense of accomplishment of like I'm building, on a week-to-week basis. Like I'm not doing something new. I'm sort of just waiting around until this thing happens. So that last 3 weeks was insanely boring until like 2 days beforehand. Once I got to Houston area, then you started getting fired up. Yeah.
I mean, like that's for me, like the half marathon training I'm doing. Like I've told people on this podcast before, like I hit 16 miles and now since then, like I just ran a half marathon in training on Saturday, which would have been like 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And it felt easier than I've ever done before. So it was my third I've done in training. It was just nice because I can see my body preparing, ready for it. So when I run the race next month, I'm good to go. Like I mentally, physically know I can do it. Now it's just, I need to perform day of the race.
Yeah. It's really fun to see the progress. Yeah. Like I with training, you do 55 and then like do 70, 75, and then you do 55 on a light week and be like, man, the last time I did 55, I was dying. And now that felt like a walk in the park.
Like, I'm the Rock, baby. Dick.
That's really fun.
So then, to take the climax of the episode, and let's talk about it. Let's dive right into the Ironman. What was it like to compete, to be around the people, the energy in the crowd? How'd you feel? All that goes with it.
Yeah, man, I could talk for probably like 3 hours on it.
We'll keep it at 15 minutes.
All right. I think, I don't really know where to start. I guess the beginning of race day, you're up at 4:30, you're starting to fuel. There's like a big list of stuff that I need to eat. That's like 3 hours before race start. I think race starts at 7:15, 7:30. So I'm just cramming food in, getting caffeine, that kind of thing. Then you meet at the like staging period. There's a couple transition areas where you swap between bike swim, bike run, that type of thing. And then you walk over to the swim start. And it's, like 1,200 people were at this event. I think a lot of them around 3,000, but there's like a sort of a kinetic energy in the air. Everybody's fired up. A lot of people, this is their first like full Ironman. Everybody's excited. You're just kind of like killing time. So, and
then the people like you had it canceled twice, so they're just like stoked to be there.
Right. Yeah, that's what everybody is just like. Thank God that we're here. This is finally happening. And so it's kind of agonizing that last hour of just sitting in the dark, like jamming to music, waiting for the sun to come up so the swim can start. And then they release you in waves, and you just get out in the water and start.
Water warm or cold?
Water was very warm.
It
was nice. Downside is you can't use a wetsuit once it gets past a certain temperature. So the wetsuit helps with buoyancy. And so by the end of the swim, my legs were just like dragging. Like I can't swim fast enough to keep them up. But
you seen anybody have to get saved while you're out there or anything like that?
Not on that one. I ran a half a couple weeks later, and a dude like right out of the gate was freaking out and had to get pulled. So it was in a lake, so it was pretty calm waters, no swell or anything we were fighting. But it's just a slog, man. It took an hour 15, hour 20 of swimming.
Wow.
and swimming on a per minute basis is
Yeah,
worse than running.
There's like no stop where you just like hold on to something.
Right.
To catch your
Yeah. Yeah. And so but it was kind of fun, I was just so excited the first half of that. I was kind of able to get through on adrenaline, and then getting out of the water, transitioning to the bike, you start getting pretty excited. The bike was one of my I'd say probably my strongest discipline of the three. So I was excited for that.
He's got some thick thighs here. You can't see.
Dude,
power.
How many C's? How many C's?
5.
5 C's? Damn, that's almost offensive. So yeah, I hopped out on the bike. It's 112 miles. It's kind of like a down and out loop. It was really cool. My parents, I saw them for the first time on the bike. I wasn't expecting them to have signs or anything. They had like a sign. It had something corny on it. I can't remember what it said, but it was at least nice to see them. And then bike was just brutal. You kind of, after like 60 miles, you're pretty over it. It takes about 7 hours. And then getting back to start the run is where it gets, you're like, all right, this is where the race is really starting. Like, I'm tired, I'm dead, my legs are killing me, and now I got to run a marathon. Essentially, it was 3 laps around a lake, really scenic, really fun. And up until that point, there weren't a lot of spectators. And on the run section is kind of where everybody was gathered, because it was 3 loops. You can see everybody a lot. The finish line's over there by this lake. And I think the first thing I've never been like hey, I really love when people cheer me on at events and things like that. Yeah. And pretty quickly I was like, man, this the energy the crowd brings is like a really critical aspect of the run.
It just gives you like a second win.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it, but it's almost like another shot of adrenaline of like stepping off the bike and just going, oh my God, like I don't want to be here anymore, and I've got 4 or 5 more hours. But the crowd was really awesome, and I don't want to say like made friends, but there were a couple, because it's 3 loops, you would see people, and I was trying to like talk to and interact with many people as possible, just to like, for my own sanity, because if I was just kind of head down doing nothing, I would have gone nuts.
Well, were there people you were competing with, like, hey, I passed the person to swim, he passed me on the bike, I didn't pass him on the run, so you had like competition around people, or you kind of just stayed in your own lane?
I wouldn't say that. There were maybe one person on the run that I kind of was jockeying with the whole time, but I wasn't like, I'm gonna take this guy down or anything like that. It's more just, I'm gonna run the fastest pace I can without puking or passing out, and see what happens, I guess.
Cool. So then that run, was there any point where you felt like, hey, I need to quit, I need to fail, hey, I'm not going to make it? Or it was always, I had the motivation and positivity, I knew I would succeed?
No point where I was ever like, oh, I'm not going to do this. I think training's honestly harder than the race.
Yep.
The training,
as it should be. Practice harder than the game.
Yeah, in training you never do anything like with marathon training. You get close to or approximate the marathon, but with the Ironman training, it's pretty unreasonable to do the whole thing in a day. It's just not good for your body.
Yeah.
So you never you get close to doing it in a weekend. You do 90% of the triathlon over a 2-day period instead of a 1-day. So there's really no guarantee that like this is going to translate, like you've never done it before to say like, oh, I know I can do this. It's more just like the daily grind of the training and how much it sucks to commit to is like, well, now I did all that. Like, there's no way I'm not going to finish. Like it's not like an option. I don't think it is to anybody. Like some of the people who run and finish like hours and hours later, some of the people are old. They're like way, they look way out of shape, or they're like fighting injuries. There's some really cool YouTube videos that highlight some of the like stuff that people run with. It's like, if they're doing that, like, I'm fine. Like, I'm going to be able to make it.
And you've seen that with like the New York Marathon, like people like amputees or people with some type of disability finishing like 3 days later, 2 days later. Yeah. And it's like, it's about the just completing it versus the time you're doing it for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool. And there were, people pushing, their children with, diseases and illnesses and things like that. That's sort of like, it's inspiring and makes you go, I'm not going to not finish.
As a 25-year-old, I'm healthy, young. I should be able to finish.
Yeah, I have no excuse.
So was there a point, though, like 2 miles left, 5 miles left, whatever, when you're like, light at the tunnel, you see it, hey, I'm going to finish, and like, let me just push my body to the limit now?
Yeah, the 3 laps, I knew the first lap was going to be pretty easy because you've got that adrenaline, you're on the last phase. I knew the last lap was going to be pretty easy because you've got the adrenaline. You're now close. It's that middle like 8 mile segment, 8.5. That's just like was a huge slog. And it was really hot that day. It was like supposed to be in the low 80s, but it was low 90s, and the humidity in Houston's always brutal. So there's this issue where it's called bonking, and it's just like if it's hot enough, you're sweating enough, and the stomach contents start to disagree with you, and people start throwing up or passing out. And so I had somewhere midway through the run, like bonked and hit the wall, so to speak, and was like, I will pass out if I keep running. So you have to walk for like a minute every mile to kind of let your stomach start digesting. But it was pretty nuts seeing people just like spewing like it happened almost.
But do people spew and just keep going like I'm good to go?
Yeah, nobody stops. It's pretty gruesome, but it just people running off the track, ducking behind a bush, yakking, and coming back out and running, which I almost wanted to yak because it would have helped.
Damn, bunking does not sound fun. So then we accomplished it. You get to the finish line. Your family there, friends there. What was that feeling like?
So the last mile, I was hauling ass. I was like, I'm gonna
the fastest mile of the whole thing.
Fastest mile by far. I can't remember what I ran, but I was literally sprinting. And then you cross through the finish line, and didn't think it would be like that much elation. I just was like, hey, this is cool. It'll be fun to knock out. And then, across the finish line, I was surprised at how good it felt. It's like, wow, we did it. My parents were there, which made it a lot better. We got dinner right next door afterwards. It was awesome to have them there. I think if I had finished and not had anyone to celebrate with, it would have been extreme. I would have felt almost bummed. So it was awesome that they were there. And then I think another thing I discovered that just triathlon community in general is one of the just a really positive group of people. And you see this in a lot of those long or endurance or physical challenge areas, with bodybuilding or ultra running. People are really positive, and it was cool during the race. I'd be running with guys, and we another guy had bonked pretty much the same time I had, so we'd see each other every few minutes, and we'd chat for our minute walk, and at the end of the race we'd kind of cross at similar times, and we high-fived, talk for a little bit, and all the athletes at the end are just high-fiving each other, gassing each other up. So it made the finish line experience a ton of fun because everyone was just really fired up. I mean, as they should be.
I love that. So if you had one takeaway for the audience about an Ironman, what would that be?
I guess applicable across a wide range. It'd have to be that Ironman's doable because of the training, and the training's doable because there's a specific plan that you're following. And if I know people who had kind of winged a plan before, and it doesn't turn out in necessarily the best way, and there's no consistency, I guess. The great part of having the plan is I'd wake up every day and I'd go, I'm doing this and this, and I'm never going to break this plan. I'm turning down absolutely everything to never break this plan, because I know the second I say, oh, my legs hurt a little bit more today, I'll take the bike off on a Thursday to help me for the run tomorrow. I know that then I've now made a concession that'll be hard to gain back in future weeks. In future weeks, I'll say, oh, I did that. It ended up being fine. I'll keep blowing off the run on this particular day. And I know people who've done that, and they've made slight concessions and then gotten behind in training because of it and gotten injured. I actually have a friend who's injured right now because of that. And so I think that was key for me, is never make a concession on the plan, and it becomes easier and easier to follow it, and easier to stay consistent. It was very tempting at times to be
the bounce.
I need a day of rest to break from this plan, but I knew if I did that, then the next week would be harder to follow the plan.
Hell yeah. And then what would be your advice for anybody who's out there who is trying to overcome any adversity or any hardships they're dealing with in their life?
I'm sort of a put your head down and do it type of dude, so I guess it depends on the adversity, depends on the hardship. But the sooner you get to doing something, the easier there's resolution. So if it's something that you can do something about, then come up with a plan and start chipping away at it.
Heck yeah. And I'm going to give Bryce a pound if you're not watching on YouTube. And that goes back to like what he said right there, setting mini goals. Like we talked about that at the beginning of the year is if you have this big lofty goal of running an Ironman, swimming an Ironman, biking an Ironman, all three together, you're not be able to just jump on a bike, go in the ocean, go in the pool and swim, go and run it. Create the mini plans. Like Bryce said, I ran one day, biked one day, swam one day. And it led up to me being able to do Ironman all together. But he had mini goals set for himself 5-6 months out that achieved the bigger goal. So if that is working out for you, if that is whatever you're trying to do in entrepreneurship, in life, whatever that may be, have that big goal and then break it up into tangible mini goals you can set for yourself daily, weekly, monthly, yearly to get to the overall arching goal. And it will feel hard. There'll feel like days that you don't want to go up and do it. But when you have the right mindset, it might never matter. You'll be like Bryce and you'll be able to achieve your dreams and you'll become an Iron Man or an Iron Woman.
Yes.
Anything else, Bryce, we haven't talked about yet?
Not without getting too detailed over stuff that nobody cares about as it pertains to Ironman.
Cool. Then we can wrap up the pod. I want to say thank you, Bryce, for coming on to Leap of Fate. Again, if you like this stuff, please like and subscribe at Leap of Fate Pod, or to myself personally at RandySilver09 on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, all the good. Please smash that like, subscribe button so we can grow this awesome Leap of Fate channel. And Bryce, if people want to ask you any questions, reach out to you, how can they do that?
I'm on Instagram, bhegs14, I think.
Yeah, it'll be in the bio.
Yeah, link in bio, dude. Hit me up. I follow back. Or I guess you could text me. I don't know. Can I get my phone number out?
I mean, it's your personal
phone number. Yeah, 512-657-0311. I'm coaching a guy, not coaching, but one of my good friends, two of them actually, I've like kind of convinced to do an Ironman. I had like a 2-hour phone call with this guy, just being like, here's what you need to do, this, and this. And I'm happy to do that for anybody if they're trying to get into triathlons.
Love it. Y'all, go make your dreams reality. Go be fit, mentally, physically. Leap of Fate, we're here to help you. Like Bryce helped us today. Understand how to run an Ironman. Swim an Ironman, bike an Ironman.
Shout out Coach Silver.
Shout out Coach Silver. We're real good at workout, so we'll do our sign off. Stay healthy. Stay wealthy. Have a good week, fam. Deuces.